This Algebra Nation video will cover the right side of page 79, problem number 4.
Is trying to draw an X on his treasure map. This X is made of two perpendicular lines. All right, Captain Hook is a genius. One line of the X has the equation y equals negative 3x plus 4. If the second line passes through the point 3, 1, find the equation of the second line in slope-intercept form. Graph your line and label them, line 1 and line 2. All right, so they're two perpendicular lines. That means they cross at 90-degree angles. One line, so my first line has this equation, y equals negative 3x plus 4. The second line passes to the point 3, 1. All right, so that's the second line. Find the equation of the second line in slope-intercept form. And then we're going to graph the lines and label them line 1 and line 2. All right, so I know my line 1 is y equals negative 3x plus 4. Remember, the slope is always next to the x. Slope is always the coefficient of x when it's in slope-intercept form already, when you get slope-intercept form. So I know the slope of line 1 is negative 3. That means the slope of line 2, its perpendicular line, is going to be the negative reciprocal. That's a fancy way of saying opposite and flip. So the opposite of negative is positive. And I have to flip this fraction. Wait a second, it's not a fraction? We'll make it a fraction. Remember, any whole number could be turned into a fraction by putting it over 1. So flipping 3 over 1, that becomes 1 over 3. So the slope of line 2, M2, is equal to positive 1 over 3. Slope of M2, the second line, is 1 over 3. So I have the slope. But now I still have to make sure it goes through this point and write it in slope-intercept form. That shouldn't be so bad. So I know that I want to end up in y equals mx plus b form because that's slope-intercept form. So I have a point, which is 3, 1, and I have a slope, which is positive. Remember, this is my second line, so I'm just putting a 2 to remind myself that's the slope of my second line is positive 1 over 3. All right, this is x1, this is y1. All right, but you know what I could do? This is my favorite way of solving these problems. Instead of y, I'm going to plug in 1. Instead of m, I'm going to substitute or plug in 1/3. Instead of x, I could plug in 3 plus b. That's the only thing I don't know yet. So let's solve for it. 1/3 times 3 is just 1. All right, if you're not sure why, remember, with fractions, you can just multiply straight across. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 times 1, because it's over 1, is 3 as well. 3 divided by 3 is just 1. All right, I have 1 plus b. Get b by itself, that means solve for b. I'm going to subtract 1 on both sides to get b by itself. 1 minus 1 is 0. So now b is by itself. 1 minus 1 on this side is also 0. So the y-intercept was actually 0. So I have slope is 1/3, but my y-intercept is 0. So to write this equation, I have y equals, my slope is 1/3, x plus 0. Oop, I'm covering up. Plus 0, or just leave it like that, right? You could put the plus 0, or y equals 1/3 x. All right, that means the same thing. Covered it up again. All right, this is line 2. So we found line 2, and we already knew line 1, right? I'll just rewrite it on the side. Line 1, they gave it to us. It was a freebie, negative 3x plus 4. Y equals negative 3x plus 4. So line 1 is y equals negative 3x plus 4. Looking at this, we're trying to graph. So I'm going to graph line 1 first.
First, you should take a brain break. When you take the EOC in May, you got to take it to the house like this guy did. That's money. Put the moves on the EOC like the moves from this guy against Texas. That's how you get a 399 or higher. Okay, back to work.
A graph by saying, what is the slope? The slope is -3 over 1. Remember, y-intercept is that number by itself, and it's 4. That's where it crosses the y-axis. All right, I always begin at B, begin at the y-intercept. Remember, this is x, this is y. So I'm going to cross this line at 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where it crosses the y-axis, the y-intercept. From that point, I need to know where to move. So from this point, the slope m is going to tell me where to move. Remember, slope is rise over run. So this is rising -3. How do you rise a negative? Well, you're going down. 1, 2, 3, over 1. Run 1. You can keep on going. Down 3. 1, 2, 3, over 1. It's a pattern. It's a rate. 1, 2, 3, over 1. All right? That is my first line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the edge of my paper to use sort of as a ruler to connect those points, right? There you go. I'm going to label this because it told me to and because it's good practice. I'm going to label this line 1. Line 1. There you go. Now let's label line 2. Let's graph and label line 2 so we could see the X that this dread Captain Hook made. All right, I'm going to do this in red, actually. So line 2 will be in red. All right, same thing here. The slope is always next to the x, so my slope is 1 over 3 because that's the coefficient of x. That's a number next to the x. Now, my y-intercept is the number that's by itself. Where's the number? It's 0. There's nothing there, so the y-intercept has to be 0. I begin at the y-intercept. I begin at B, and that's a 0. So that's where I start. And then I'm going to look how to move by looking at the slope m. M tells me how to move. Remember, slope is rise over run on a graph. So it tells me to rise 1. It's a positive number, so I'm going to go up. And run 3. It's a positive number, so I'm going to go to the right. Rise 1 over 3. 1, 2, 3. Make a point. Like directions, right? Rise 1, go over 3. 1, 2, 3. I have a few points now, so I could just connect those points and make my line 2. So line up my paper. Oopsie. There we go. A little better. Hopefully your line was a little bit straighter than mine. You just use a real ruler, hopefully. So this is line 2. So this is the X on Captain Hook's map. These are perpendicular lines because they cross, and they cross in a very special way. They cross in a 90-degree right angle, right? So